Before we begin, I want to warn you that this presentation is designed to make you become a fool to this world. I know that sounds evil, but it's actually what the Word tells us to do when it says that if any man among you seemeth to be wise in this world, let him become a fool, that he may be wise. And if you're reading this and not understanding what the wisdom of this world is, that's okay. We all grew up with this wisdom. We're surrounded by it. It was forced upon us when we were too young to prove all things. But the wisdom of this world and why losing it to become a fool makes you wise is due to the one simple fact that the wisdom of this world is foolishness with our Father. To lose that will make you become a fool, in the sense that the world that you once were wise in will now view you as a fool. So it's a fair warning. I wanted you to know that before I start. And if you're ready to proceed on, there's two ways that you can lose this wisdom. The simplest, of course, is to let God be true, but every man a liar. The one that is more challenging, but something we should all do anyways, is to prove all things. And if you do that, you'll find out that God is true, and pretty much everyone else that has shown you the wisdom of this world is a liar. Not intentionally, most of the time, but these lies were inherited by us. And before I expose those lies, I want to share how it is that I lost the wisdom of this world. It wasn't one of simple faith and just letting God be true. I knew He was real. Some miracles happened a little over a decade ago that proved to me beyond a shadow of a doubt that He still heals and that His mercy is exactly as He says it is throughout the Word, that it endures forever. The pattern that we seem to miss when we're skimming through this book, that it's everlasting, that His truth endureth to all generations. There's an awakening happening right now, and many are finding out that we do have this loving Father who's a lot closer than we were told. I was one of them in that miracle where He healed my broken heart and set me free and restored me beyond new and beyond that old self that I was, where I was leaning on this world for my happiness. I learned a valuable lesson, and the lesson I learned is similar to that of the love you learn about from your parents. The fact that they tell you to look both ways before you cross the road isn't so that they can punish you when you mess up, it's so that you don't die. And if your parent were to find you injured because you, heaven forbid, forgot to look both ways because you were energetic and foolish, as some children are, like I was, and you got hurt, would your parent punish you while you were laying there in pain, or lift you up when you reached up for them? And that is not what I was expecting when I had been foolish, but He lifted me up anyways. And it's a love that I could not deny. And this miracle happened about a month before I started my career as a teacher, and I had no clue where that journey was going to go. But one thing was for sure, I had a newfound respect for intelligent design and the complexities of creation. And it's so complex that we need cartoons to show us the complexity of His design beyond the microscopic levels that we can see, because it's just that intelligently designed. And it was one of those things that bothered me, especially when there was that elephant in the room that I had to address, known as evolution. It was one of those things that, no matter what timeline they gave me, didn't seem mathematically possible. And so, like the crazy mad scientist, I tried to map it all out just to see if I could prove that that was even possible. And the harder you try, and the more you learn about the complexity of life and the symbiotic relationships of everything, the more you realize it's impossible. And I could go into that in this video, and it would take a lot of your time. I encourage you to look into that. I will leave some resources for you. But while I was doing this investigation, using the wisdom they gave me, I found some things that didn't add up. Like the fact that I had been lied to when I was a student about the proofs we had for common ancestors. I was shown drawings, again, like I said, cartoons. And that's okay if they are drawing what they assume. But if they draw something and tell you that it's one thing, when they know that it's not and we have scientific proof that it's not, that is a lie. And it's not okay to be used in education, but these drawings here, these embryo drawings, that's exactly what they were. And when you look below them, you see that they don't look at all like the images that we have here. Not one bit. And this is over 100 years ago. This stuff is still in education today, and on test, the answer choice to this would be that it's proof of a common ancestor. I know this because I've administered these tests and I have seen those questions, and that's what they say. And real science prove that there are lies, and that is one of many that led me into some searching and digging and finding out that every bit of evidence they have to support the lies falls apart and is based on fraud. And those images still remain in education today, even when they're proven false, like the dino bird, the Piltdown hoax. Similar types of imagery, even if it's not the exact same one, they make more images and statues and cartoons, and they need those in the absence of evidence. But while I was looking into this stuff, I was still falling back into a deep slumber, not knowing why I couldn't be on fire, what was I missing, what was right in front of my eyes. And that's when, yet again, I found myself needing some miracles. And as always, when I've reached out, He was there to pick me up, and a chain of miracles opened my eyes and had me ask a question that would change everything. As I looked up at the stars, knowing that something was off about creation and the timelines, and I said, Father, show me the truth about creation, no matter how crazy it sounds, and I ask that it gives glory to you. But you have to be careful what you ask for, because I did in fact say, no matter how crazy it sounds. Don't know why I worded it that way at the time, but that's what I said. And before I knew it, I began to see things with the eyes that I had asked for. I started seeing not only how they lied to us, but why they lied. And it was about things that seemed so innocent when we were children and being exposed to these things. And that's probably one of the greatest reasons why they were passed on for so long. We'd never thought to ask questions or even use our spiritual eyes to look at this wisdom and examine it further, to see the mark that was right in front of our faces the entire time. Nor did we even hear in our history classes what our ancestors really believed in. We were deceived to think that they were so foolish that they believed that the earth was shaped like some sort of disc with an edge that you could just sail right off of. They never even told us anything about the true biblical model that our ancestors really believed in. They skipped right past that somehow, and we didn't pick up on it either, even though we read the book that talked about it. And they placed us on this little dot right here and said that's our home. We've all lived there on this ever-expanding universe, flying at Mach 600 plus without ever feeling the slightest movement. And those speeds, I want you to investigate real quick. Those speeds are extremely fast. Spinning, circling the sun, tilting in an ellipse. Meanwhile, not feeling any motion at all starts to blow you away when you think about how fast that really is. So I'm going to show you some comparisons of the slowest speeds of our given spherical Earth. So pay attention to how fast this is, and it's not even a fraction of how fast they tell us we're going.
The supersonic pass.
Imagine never being told what you lived on and having the assumption that it wasn't moving, and then someone telling you it's moving hundreds of times faster than what you just saw. It would take a lot of faith to accept that, especially when you can point anything at the North Star 365 days a year, while the stars that circle around it make perfect circles. But it's a stretch of the truth from people who have carried on something that makes the Father angry, and it's sun god worshiping. His word tells us that this is one of those things that upsets him when he's speaking to Ezekiel. And I had no clue that it went as far back and as deep as it does. And then we have our own version of the sun god Helios right here in America for everyone to see, called the Statue of Liberty. But if you look inside, someone reminded me that it is called the New Colossus. What is the old Colossus? Well, the Colossus of Rhodes was the Greek sun god Helios, a statue that they had that was massive. And you can see representations of it throughout history. Even Mr. Relativity himself mocking us by showing us who they pay tribute to. This is a representation of Helios as well. The Mayans were sun god worshippers, and their calendar ended in 2012. They're using the Julian calendar, which makes it 2012 right now, showing us that they were probably planning something way back then, and the same people that have been pushing it knew that. And that's why it ends now, and they have all of the chaos going on in the world because they are preparing for a war. And the only way they can get people to join them in their fight at the end is to have them be deceived about what they're fighting against. And it all stems on not knowing who they are, where they come from, and what their purpose is. And the blinding happens when we stop listening to what the Word has told us to do. And one of those simple warnings was that in all things that I have said unto you, be circumspect, and make no mention of the name of other gods, neither let it be heard out of thy mouth. This was straight from the Father, and we didn't listen. We've taken those names and we have founded them in our model of creation that we associated with Him. Most of us did. We blended that reality with the Bible because that wisdom of the world was something we loved. We did not know that when we were singing those songs, we were repeating the names of those gods, except for earth. Earth is just dry land. We didn't know that. We thought it was a spherical object, this ecosphere that contains all life. That's what we believed. But even our terms that we have for this whole system, solar system, and Helios, they have the names of sun gods. Helios, of course, you know that name, but I was unaware that Sol comes from Sol Invictus, which was one of their most powerful sun gods of ancient Rome. And that's where we have the solar system. The SOL comes from that. So deep-rooted deceptions there. Even our days of the week. It's not just the planets and all of that. The days of the week were these same exact names we were told not to mention, and they are tributes to them. Our new day of worship is on Sunday, the day that they worship the sun gods. But even the missions that they have bear these names. They do it for a reason. It's in your face. The history that all of us were not taught about, right there, the Titans, the Fallen, the Nephilim. They honor them with their missions, and they put this in plain sight and act like it's innocent. Many of the children I see wearing the NASA gear have these little logos and emblems bearing these names and have no clue the sinister origins. But sun god worshipping, why is it important for the enemy to do it? Well, one reason is that it makes the Father angry. This was very upsetting to him. The greater light that he made and put up there and put in motion, they are worshiping this object as if it is him, as if it's a god. And if that's not enough, the book of Exodus, the second commandment, I overlooked this. I don't know how. I seem to pick up the first little phrase of, thou shalt not make unto thee any graven images. But it goes on, and it tells us, or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Water under the earth? Somehow we missed that part. And the book of Enoch tells us it's founded on the waters. I thought that was a cool connection. But it says, again, I'm going to read this part. Anything that is in heaven above. Well, guess what? Where does it say he placed the stars? In the firmament, right? He called the firmament heaven. So the way I take it is, we are not supposed to be making these graven images that are now named after different gods that we're not to mention. And we could sing the songs and hang these models up in our classroom. Most of us did that, and we were proud of this wisdom. We took it home, we showed our parents. We're like, look how wise we are. But that's what the wisdom of this world tells us creation is. The pale blue dot, the ever-expanding universe. And we bought it. And we felt that we were wise. But let's look at what the Father tells us earth is. When it says, and God called the dry land earth. That was it. That's all we really need to know. Doesn't tell us the shape of it because it's just dry land. It has many different shapes. It goes up, it goes down. Lots of different elevation changes. But one really key factor is its motion. Earth is fixed and immovable. It cannot be moved. It is firmly established, immovable, on its foundations never to be moved, for the earth's pillars belong to Adonai. On them he has placed the world. And if that's not enough, we see in Joshua that he made the sun stand still for this battle to be won. If the earth had stopped moving, there would have been chaos. Oceans would have spilled over. Both sides would have died. It would have been tragic, almost like the flood. But that's not what the book tells us happened. It says the sun stood still in the midst of heaven and hasted not to go down about a whole day. It also tells us there is a firmament above us. Another thing we all overlooked when we were so blinded by the wisdom of this world. And it tells us that God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And God made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. That completely destroys this. And if you're new to this, which is who I am trying to reach out to, this is destroyed. This is not what any of us believe in. There is no pancake floating in space. Earth has a foundation with a great expanse above it, the firmament, the greatest and the largest structure known to mankind. And the cool thing about this expanse is that we are thankful to the Father that we have seen it. We believed it was there when we started looking into this and the Spirit was moving, awakening us up. But we have seen it, and we might have missed it, but there was some valuable key pieces that helped us see this. And they go back to prophecies. I'm going to read a couple of them from the book of Enoch. And one of them says, and many chiefs of the stars shall transgress the order prescribed. Talking about the planets. And these shall alter their orbits and tasks, and not appear at the seasons prescribed to them. And the whole order of the stars shall be concealed from the sinners, and the thoughts of those on the earth shall err concerning them, and they shall be altered from all their ways. Yea, they shall err and take them to be gods, and evil shall be multiplied upon them. Quite simple. We have taken them to be gods. Like we said earlier, they are all named after gods. It's nothing new that they have those names. And that takes me to something else that was said in the book of Enoch that sounded way crazier than this. When Enoch is being shown these things by angels, it says, and other things I saw concerning lightning, how some of the stars rise up and become lightning, but cannot lose their form. So if this happens, we should be able to see that. This should be something that people know about. Well, after reading this, I had a memory of something called lightning sprites. As you see here, this phenomenon, it's so fast and it's rarely caught on camera. There were some brave scientists that ventured up above a storm to film these, and what they captured revealed exactly what this book was saying. And I'm going to let you guys see this as these stars rise up and as these what they call lightning sprites shoot out through the firmament and the waters above. It's going to blow you away.
Another declassified CIA document. They're checking out the firmament in this one, 1953 now. In the investigations, 2 instruments designed by V.G. Fesenkov were used. One of these was a visual photometer of the daytime sky intended for measuring the brightness of the firmament, and derived, get this now, on the assumption of a flat Earth. So the Russians are trying to check out the firmament based on assumptions of a flat Earth in 1957?
Nike Hercules, Stripey XM-33, Thor, launched by a pod-carrying Thor missile. Its yield was 1.4 megatons.
I know we have still not shattered that highest and hardest glass ceiling, but someday someone will, and hopefully sooner than we might think right now.
Point Nemo. Nope, it's not in Antarctica. This spot lies more than 13,000 feet deep in the South Pacific Ocean and is further from land than any other point on Earth. And that's how Point Nemo has become the world's only spacecraft graveyard.
Now that you've seen that, it probably makes a lot more sense why we always see rockets launch the way they do. It's a good show to watch. Yes, it's exciting. We still watch these because we know that they can only provide us with a few minutes of uncut footage followed by a cartoon, or they just stop it altogether. In all the decades of rockets being launched, you don't have as much footage uncut as regular people launching balloons. If the regular everyday person can launch a balloon and give you 3 hours of footage, why can't our multi-billion-dollar agencies give us that? Because it's impossible, and it would show where they are going. You can do some digging if you don't believe me and try to find uncut footage that lasts longer than a few minutes, and you can't. But if this barrier is up there, scientists would have detected it. And they have. They had been calling it the Van Allen belts. Well, scientists detected something they could not penetrate. And NASA came out with another story and said, well guys, it's just a man-made bubble shrouding Earth that's up there surrounding us, and that the Van Allen probes have spotted it. You don't have to take my word for it. You can read their article. It tells you exactly that. The other thing people get to wondering about once they've seen this is, why don't we just go there and settle this all together? That would be great. I'm all for that. However, we have not been allowed to go there and privately explore. No one has ever circumnavigated north to south, and it will never happen because you can't. The treaty that keeps us from doing that has been upheld peacefully throughout every conflict since the Cold War. Break that treaty, you will be stopped. If you want to go there and visit, you can go there and visit. Tons of people go there and visit. $40,000 for a ticket. You can go there if you want to explore, but you can only go where they tell you that you can go. Because they are studying ice. Yes, they are looking at the ice, studying the ice, and it's got to be shared peacefully. And the only other thing they share peacefully is, you guessed it, space. They get along great. All of these space agencies that are part of that same treaty, they get along just fine, hold hands, smile for the camera. Meanwhile, they divide all of us over here on the Earth while they pretend to be above it. Early explorers figured that out. They knew what was out there. Their maps looked very close to ours. They didn't fall off of an edge because there is not an edge that exists to fall off of. There is a great expanse, a firmament that's out there. Captain Cook said there was about 60,000 miles of a wall that he could not penetrate surrounding our Earth, surrounding the known world, the circle of the Earth, the circle of the dry land. There it is. There are documents that mention that the Earth is not rotating and that it looks like this here. Why can they assume something if it's not really a fact? How did Russia not know the shape of the Earth? There's a lot more questions when you start digging, but there's also a lot more answers when you go and try to prove all things. I'm about to get into the proofs of the flatness, because as we said, Earth is just dry land. Of course, it's not completely flat, but water is flat. It does not curve. And when we think back to our early images of the flood, what do we imagine? We imagine water rising and falling. None of us ever think about the floodgates pouring out on Earth and picture this. I know I didn't. I don't want to speak for everyone, but I'm pretty sure that's not what you imagined when those fountains of the deep were opened up in addition to those windows of heaven. Guess what? Water had to go somewhere. On our current model, there's really nowhere for all that extra water to go. And the magnetic pole that we have, that's like a bar magnet through our Earth, would not function with magma. When you superheat a magnet, it does not work. And we have this molten hot core of Earth, animations of it, and we've only gone a little speck of the way into the surface, or so they tell us. But the truth is that water was not curved, bending, wrapped around a spherical object. But in modern times, we have tools that our ancestors didn't have. These tools capture things that we shouldn't be able to see, like the world record long distance photo. Over 3/4 of a mile of curve was missing this particular day. It's always missing. The only problem is conditions have to be right for you to see certain objects. As you can tell, there is a lot of water blocking your view, similar to why scientists have to use submarines to see the bottom of the ocean when it's a certain depth. The Marianas Trench, we had to send a submarine down there to see it. But miraculous conditions allow us to see reality. And yes, the curve calculators aren't accurate. because they don't factor in objects resting on top of that curve that are in between you and the object, nor do they factor in perspective changes in size of distant objects. They don't factor that in. So they are wrong. But at close distances, we also have some miraculous images where water is proven once again to be flat. 9.5 miles away is this little rig. Beyond that, you can see a horizon, and the horizon is supposed to only be 1.2 miles away with a camera height of 1 foot. And thankfully, there are so many scientists and researchers out there working to prove all things that we get footage like this. People with lasers investing time in spite of the world telling them it's impossible. They do things like this and have footage that shows us 16.4 miles of flat water. This proves that water is flat, and having stars move in certain ways above will not make this water curve. It will remain flat, and what we live on is not moving. And these distances, they don't seem like a lot because they are not compared to the ones I'm about to show you. For example, Guglielmo Marconi. He was wanting to send a signal across the Atlantic. This guy was a genius. He was told by physicists not to even try because it was impossible due to the 2,100 mile stretch that would have encountered 504 miles of curve. He did it anyways. He cranked up the power and made a connection. Sent that signal all the way across the Atlantic, proving that the water was flat. Whales, well, they're very smart. And they know that water is flat because they are able to hear other whales from about 4,000 miles away. Scientists tell us the only time they can't hear each other is when there are ridges in the way that create acoustic shadows. However, the 495 miles of curve doesn't impact them, and it might be because the bottom of the ocean looks like this. Not perfectly flat, but if you're near the surface, places like this, where you can send a signal, they can communicate. The Geological Society of America mapped out the ocean. This is what they got. Notice the straight line up top. That's reality. These are just a few of the many proofs that are compiling as we move forward and prove all things. But when we look back at the old reality that we believed in, we see one thing that's clear: deception. The deceivers had to pull off some amazing feats. They are no rookies to deception. And they had the wisdom of the fallen right there in their back pockets, and they used it to create images that were not only deceptive, but bear certain marks. That's why our heliocentric model has all of those numbers that we overlook. This is not to condemn anyone, it's only to wake you up to the lies and to show you the proof that we have of creation and why it's important that we not be deceived. And there's a couple of reasons. One of those is the upcoming deceptions that the Word tells us about. If you remember, I spoke about an upcoming war. It tells us here exactly that. It says, "And I saw 3 unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. For they are the spirits of devils, working miracles which go forth unto the kings of the earth and of the whole world, to gather them to the battle of that great day of God Almighty." This is a whole other video in itself. We should talk about this and understand what's coming, what they're preparing for. It's not a battle they know they're going to win. They know they're going to lose, and they want to take people with them. People that we have to get ready to be on the winning side. It's going to be very deceptive what's around the corner. And when you look at what Aleister Crowley said over here about demons, he has the image of the one that he manifested physically to him, allegedly. And he says, today they call them angels and demons. Tomorrow they will call them something else. And that's exactly what we're calling them, something else. They're not unclean spirits like frogs. But beyond the deceptions, beyond all of this, why is it important that we learn the truth about what we live on? It's simple. The grace and the truth about our Father and how close He is. And to share that with you are some examples of people who lost the wisdom of this world and what they have to say. These weren't religious people. These weren't people just trying to make the world view fit their biblical view at all. Like this person here. They said, "Flat Earth changed me from atheist to a Bible-loving, God-fearing human being. I'm born again in the name of Yahushua, Jesus of Nazareth. These are the things that keep us going. And another one here says, 43-year atheist and agnostic. The flat earth led me to the firmament and the Bible. But one testimony that really touched me a while back was from someone who said, I've been a heroin addict close to a decade now. The Bible seems like a book of silly children's stories made up and used by the church to control people. Needless to say, drugs have been the center of my world, so much so, I've never taken much time to get any deeper than that when it comes to God. I've been watching these videos for about a week with my boyfriend. After watching this one, we just sat quietly for a moment and then looked at each other in amazement. The Bible is real in its literal translation, and there is a great deceit behind everything we've been taught. I'm going to get myself a Bible soon and research the book of Enoch as well. Please pray for us. This brought tears to my eyes because it reveals just how powerful this truth is. It's not the most important truth, but it leads people to that. And it shows them that there is a Creator, and when they get to know Him, they find out that He loves them so much that He sent His beloved Son, a gift given to be raised up, so that they will not perish and be lost. The Spirit of truth is waking people up, many of you included that have seen this and shared this work. And I thank you guys for your help, because it's guiding people to prove all things. And it's waking them up to the lies and helping them become a fool to this world, which is what we are here to do today, is fulfill what 1 Corinthians told us to do, and that's to let you guys become fools so that you may become wise.